Paintball nerd.
All right, today's guest on Paintball Nerds Fun 5 has been playing paintball since 1999. She began her professional career in 2000 with the Femme Fatales. Later, in 2004, she would form the organization known today as Destiny, which has teams all throughout the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, B Paxson.
Yay!
Hey, B.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Oh, happy to have you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's a little cold here in Montana. Probably going to hit about 24 degrees. That'll be our high.
Oof.
Got some
Yikes.
flurries and snow on the ground already. Usually it doesn't snow like this.
Yeah.
But I actually love it very much.
Right on. Well, B, I remember the first time I met you. You were already a celebrity in paintball. You kind of were a celebrity right away, weren't you, with Femme Fatales?
Blessed. Yeah, I kind of was. And I think part of it is because of my entertainment background. But yes.
DJB. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. I actually DJ'd a lot in after college. It would have been a great job during college, right? But I actually had a nail tech license instead. So I did pretty good. My mom is very smart, got me to really think young entrepreneurship when I was just 15 years old. So went through a summer program to basically get my nail license and just have always been a kind of a go-getter. But coming into paintball, and that entertainment background really helped me get that sponsorship that I needed because paintball's expensive. And I really didn't have a whole lot of money when I first started playing paintball. So I would try to come up with ways to barter and offer services in exchange for a paintball marker from Graham Easton at Smart Parts.
So you before you joined the Femmes, you had never played a day of walk-ons.
Never played a game of walk-on. So Tammy was like, hey, do you want to be on this paintball team with me? And I'm trying to form this all-female thing. And at first I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. But I couldn't help but think of camouflage, painting my face dark. You know what I mean? And I had that typical stereotype that when you talk to people that don't know about the tournament scene of paintball, that's the same imagery that I had. And so at first I was like, nah, it doesn't really appeal to me. But she's like, no, you got to come to the field. So she takes me to Extreme Rage Paintball Park. And this is literally around 1999. And which, by the way, I'd already been friends with Tammy for, since 95. And that's a long story. But we also knew of each other in middle school and high school. So here we are both about to turn 50 next year, but we both have known each other and known of each other since we were 11.
Wow.
But with that said, Tammy's like, no, just come to the field. I see this field of blown up bunkers. It looked like going to a car dealership, because, you're expecting like the guy that's doing this, in front of it. But they were all connected by a fan because that's when they were still connected. And that's how you got the air inside the bunkers on a continuous basis. And that intrigued me. Plus, I was single and I saw how many men were there. And I was like, wow, this is a great scouting ground. So yeah, I never played a day of walk-on paintball ever in my life. I strictly was immersed into this sport by the training of Todd and Tammy Adamson. And I just remember not even knowing what the markers were. Like I'd walk into Todd and Tammy's Extreme Rage paintball store and I wouldn't be able to tell you the difference between an auto cocker and an air gun design marker either, because that's what was popular then. It all looked the same to me. But now, of course, obviously I could tell the difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, she introduced me to it and I liked it because of how different it was. And it just seemed very curious to me because I always like to do things that are a little bit different than what most people were doing. So paintball was my choice.
So how did you go from just 4 years later forming this worldwide organization?
I have always been about friends and meeting people and having long-lasting relationships ever since I can remember. And it's funny because the meaning of my name means bringer of happiness. And it's almost like the moment I learned that meaning, I wanted to live by it. And so happiness for me is getting to know people and learning from them and having friendships. It's so important to me. Like I literally try to unfriend people on my Facebook on a regular, and I can't because I always check the messages to see if we have any kind of communication or if we went to school together or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, I'm legit friends with probably 5,000 people. So because of that, and because of my ability to have that, like I have a desire to just connect people too. And somebody would say, "Hey, B, you guys gotta, are you guys going to set event? Do you need any players?" And usually our roster would be full. Then I would be like, "Well, I know these 3 people that want to play with, and you guys are 2, so you guys can play together as a 5. And I can help you out a little bit with just getting through the door to get some sponsorship, but you gotta wear something Destiny and you gotta shoot the right stuff or wear the right stuff." So it just kind of evolved from there. And even though I kind of launched this concept in 2018, we've always had collaborations, whether it was with an Australian team or a team out of Malaysia, and we would just coin it Destiny Australia or Destiny, Asia. And we would just go romp at an event as that said team. And I've always been grateful that everybody was so happy to wear a Destiny jersey. And a lot of it is because of what the girls did in the very beginning that played on the original roster back in 2004 when we all came together and decided that, we were going to be Destiny because it was fate that brought us together. So shout out to Mike Paxson for coming up with the name. And then, like I said, I feel very purposeful, especially with that selective name. And I think names are really important when you put an identifier on something like that. And so it's kind of lived by its own name and just being Destiny.
No doubt that the Destiny organization has impacted the sport. You've made it accessible to a lot of people. You've made competitive tournament paintball accessible to a lot of people that otherwise it probably wouldn't have been.
And I'm so thankful for that. I did have something happen, particularly at World Cup, and they might be watching now, but without naming any names, a little fiasco happened, and I was accused of pocketing money or kind of doing this. I even remember when we first started this that people were coining it as a multi-level marketing scheme.
An MLM, paintball MLM.
I'm like, wow, I must be making it big. Like there's some big money in MLMs, and I wish I can tap into that. You know what I'm saying? But it's kind of been a science project, especially even as fast as we grew. And I take full accountability because it was so hard for me to keep up with. But by the grace of God, we've lasted this long, and we actually have more Destiny teams now than ever before. And so I get very sensitive when people accuse me of such because, listen, I thinking back now, my parents made it look like we were rich, but we were middle class, right? Like,
yeah.
And even going through college and like eating ramen and pizza, like that was the food that we went to because you only had so many dollars, right? So my background is I don't come from wealth, you know what I mean? I come from a very working class family. And so for someone to make that accusation, it just totally devastated me. But I often feel like it's because I think they look at me as being so approachable and that I do want to be a giver and I am a servant just because that's my desire. So with that said, I have tried to make it accessible. And instead of me being a selfish person, in my opinion, especially Mike will lecture me all the time, like, B, can it just be us? Can we just be me and BB and you, and we'll just go travel and play paintball together? I just still feel like I want to be this extension for those that want to live the paintball dream. And I want to have something to give back to the community that have kind of made me feel worthy of being in paintball, And so I'm blessed because of Mike, he has taught me so much, and he's honestly hands down one of the best paintball coaches in the world. Yeah. And having him, be a part of this Destiny model, that brings a lot of value too, and I think simply because he's married to me, Zizek, that he does it because he loves me. And he's like, fine, I'll do this, He'd much rather be in Florida fishing, like, or doing something in San Diego, or going to Finland with Miko, and doing all
Yeah.
these really cool hunting and fishing excursions. Makes life so much easier that way, right? But again, it's just this thing that I feel compelled to do. And even with some negative commentary about how we've done this so far, I'm still not going to give up, because I still believe that
Please
what we're
don't.
doing is, that connectivity, that the idea that collaborating and bringing people together and working together is literally going to make that pie bigger, right? Because you've heard it before, right? Why don't we make the pie bigger, not just our slice? And I'm still determined to make that more attainable.
Well, listen, the bigger impact that you have on something, the more eyes you have on you to criticize, right? And there's going to be people that are
Correct.
hypercritical. And that's just the reality of fame, baby. you know,
It is.
like you're doing it.
Well,
Like you are important
it
to
is, and
paintball. So,
right, and part of it too is not being able to explain it, because again, I get so busy and then I forget to have a orientation. So what we're doing next year is I'm actually going to be creating a booklet, and it'll have a QR code for each topic that each Destiny team or player is curious about. So then it'll be about said topic, like what are the expectations and vice versa, or what are we actually getting from Destiny and blah, blah, blah. And what does Destiny expect from us, or what are the costs of things? Because cost is a big deal too. We're not a 501c3, we're not a nonprofit, but I sometimes behave and make it I don't do it on purpose, but I do try to give of myself almost on a voluntary basis. Too much, in fact, where it takes away from my ability to make income elsewhere, like in my actual real estate job, you know. But it's okay. Like I said, I think the takeaway from that remark is that I just need to explain it better. And it's not like I have to tell people what costs are, like what my cost is. It's like a paintball store or even a
yeah,
car for that matter. When you go shopping for a brand new car,
exactly.
you know what I mean? Excuse me, sir. I would like to know how much you actually paid for that car. What's your
Yeah.
profit margin?
Yeah.
So, and that's what I'm up against. And so it's just a matter of making this more of a business model, in provisions of services that I'm hopefully able to supply with that value on it. Mike's coaching, the clinics that we're going to be doing next year. Part of that is going to be discounted for our teams and players. You see, even some of the events we're planning on having, like we're actually going to try to implement a Destiny League. And I love three
Cool.
man. I'm not interested in doing X ball because I think economically it can be very expensive. And so
Sure.
my belief is that paintball can be a sport for everyone, and it's not just for the ones that can afford it. This can be affordable if we try to teach people ways to fundraise and be a part of the marketing campaign that I hope this becomes.
Yeah, and it's so important as well because with paintball, you can create so many amazing memories. And I'm sure, over the past what's it been, 23, 24 years now, you've built up a lot of amazing memories just from paintball. So B,
It
tell us
has
about
been
a memory that really sticks out for you.
I always see this picture in my head when I was giving Mike Paxson a hug because he coached us to victory in San Diego, 2006, and PPL, National Professional Paintball League. Chuck was still there. Chuck Hench was the president. And I embraced him to just say thank you. And we had just won first place out of, I want to say, almost 70 teams in Division Two, 7-man. 210 teams sticks out to me. I memorized that part. But 210 teams played in Division Two that 2006 year. And we came in second place overall out of 210 D2 teams, mostly female roster. Katie Kelly, Kat Secor, Steve Connor he's coaching the Misfits, I think. Is that what their name is? Sean Moe's LTZ. They're now playing as the Vegas Misfits. And other really cool players that got to be a part of that memory, just really stands out to me. And just because, again, they're still friends with us to this day.
Hmm.
Every single one of them. Menudo, which is Mikey, Dustin Goodry, You know, I still talk to him every once in a while. He's got babies, and I think he's living in Louisiana. Shawnette Taylor, she was part of the beginning, but she wasn't on that roster. I think it was, I can't remember her name right now. Again, I have early onset of the dementia, but she played with us too. And just really enjoyed that memory just because we're still friends to this day. So that says a lot, I think.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. I mean, that's why paintball's so awesome. All the friendships that you make, all the memories. Do you have a favorite player, someone that you really like watching, or just someone that you really like connecting with every event?
You, you know, I was so fond of a lot of our alumni. There's too many to mention, right? But even watching some of these girls that came in second place every event this past season and seeing their growth, particularly Haley Leva and the Blanco sisters. Those girls started out with us in 2018, and they have stuck by us since. And that's a long time when you think about what it is nowadays. And
Yeah.
and just seeing their growth and how quickly they evolved, especially with the advent of adding the women's NXL or the women's pro division to the NXL.
Hmm.
And so it's really hard for me to say who the favorites are. Like Brittany Wagner, I used to love watching her play. Kat Secor, just her movements on the field and how slick she would be. And then Katie Kelly and her shot off the break. And there's just so many significant alumni like that that really stand out. But these newer girls have truly impressed me. And usually I have that bias, right? Because I'm from the OG realm. And I always think, well, we have more experience and we have more medals under our belts. But in the little time that those girls have been playing, they have a lot of medals too. And I'm really proud of what they were able to accomplish this past year. Blanco sisters are really fun to watch because of how short in stature they are. And another one that, again, Michaela Brooks, that girl has been through so much with us, through thick and thin. Some things have happened where she probably didn't have to stay with us, you know, but
Hmm.
I believe in the connectivity that we have. Like, we're pretty close. So the power that I believe Destiny has is in the way that Mike and I have created these relationships where people still want to be around us. I think we're
Yep.
pretty fun too. You know what I mean?
I think so. Definitely.
We make things pretty fun. Um, but yeah, those girls really stand out to me. And again, there's something to say about every single player that has come through the Destiny program, but those ones right now are really speaking to my heart.
Perfect. So, V, do you have a paintball item that's maybe near and dear to your heart? Now, this could be something that you save in your closet, or it's a lucky item you bring with you, or maybe something you can't step on the field without.
Michael used to make these bracelets for me, and now he does it for BB, and he calls it the force field. And it literally did
Ooh.
work. You know, Mike and I played pro for a second. This is before Destiny became what it is now. And it was with Ron Kilborn. And Michael would always find some cool thing to put on me or put a coin inside my pocket, just to make me believe that I had an actual force field around me. And so those things really are important. Now, I do lose jewelry a lot, and I decided that I was going to tattoo some of my jewelry on. So these are now even my wedding ring. But yeah, like those things stick out. I mean, I'm looking around at my office, and I do have something pretty cool. I'll be right back. I'm going to show you
Yeah.
this. And this is something that everybody knows him. And this is from Oliver Lang. Let me see.
Ooh.
I don't know if you could see it, but he literally said, Paxson family, I love you all and appreciate you so much in my life. Thank you for the constant support. You are my forever teammates. May these paintings bring you great joy and healing. Love, Ollie. And he would put virtue in these. So this is some of the stuff that, oh, you see my ring light, but there, isn't that cool? Like, and
That's
again, he probably
awesome.
just like threw stuff together, you know. But I'm sure the
Well,
whole time he was like praying over it and doing his stuff, you know.
totally. You did it with
I'm
intention,
a big Oliver
massive
fan.
intention in that.
massive intention. And so these things, again, meaningful, purposeful,
Yeah.
and again, having known Oliver in the way that I did, even when I worked at JT, because I think some of you guys know that I worked at JT thanks to Rodney Squires and Chuck, also to Tammy and Todd, because they helped me get through that door. It also didn't help. I mean, it obviously did help that I had educational background too and entertainment, but working with those guys, and then how Oliver would just walk through the doors in Chula Vista, and I would just basically do whatever he wanted. Yes, Oliver, just go in there, just pick whatever you want. And he would like basically take his shopping cart and just pick out everything that he wanted. And I got reprimanded. They're like, why are you like, this is really taken away from the budget. And I'm like, this kid's going to be something. I'm just saying. And that was in 2002. And so, yeah, these are some of the things that I cherish. I'm kind of a quasi hoarder, honestly. If you come to my house, I have a lot of stuff, and a lot of it is I have more of Oliver's paintings and other memorabilia that are just very meaningful for us, especially the medals. The medals are really better than the trophies because they're just small and manageable and easy to kind of carry around. But yeah, those are things that really stick out to me. Michael still does that, especially with BB now, her getting into playing paintball. We kind of didn't want her to play paintball. We were like, golf or tennis, BB, because there's some scholarships you could win.
Yeah, exactly.
But she's actually quite good. Now, she doesn't have the same spring in her step. She's still growing into her body, and she's actually an inch taller than me now, 13 years old, but she's got a hell of a shot. And she's smart like her dad. It took me forever to learn the concept and strategy of paintball, and that's why I'm glad Michael's been in my life. But BB immediately knows what she's got to do to help the team out. So she's a good protector.
Well, she's probably just got, like puppy feet, so she's got to grow into those feet and get her balance right and all that good stuff.
They're much bigger. They're like Frodo feet. Like she trips over them sometimes, and she's all her dad, like her attitude and everything. I wish I was like that when I was her age. She's very confident. So I think she's going to be a force to be reckoned with even next year. She's already won a World Cup championship in the 3v3 last year with Tammy's daughter and Monica Lopez's daughter. They both, Tammy and Monica, play obviously on Femmes. But we decided that all our daughters are going to play together. So that's another really cool memory too, by the way, just seeing how the fruits of our labor. Yeah. And again, and paintball is still very small, like this is, I wish it was much bigger, and it still has a lot of potential to even get even bigger. But
I mean, that's my dream is to have my kid play with me someday. He's only 2 now, but like I see you guys with BB and you guys like Rabikoff, whose son is like at the top now, and it just makes you really want that.
Yeah, the way that I look at life is every day we wake up, and I always say, thank you, God. I get to breathe another day. But we're always looking for activities, and your job is an activity. Your hobbies are activities, eating and sleeping and all that, all activities, right? But paintball is such an amazing, interesting game, and the way that it brings people together, and just how people feel about one another when we do get to hang out at the paintball field. Even in the big game scenario world, I actually like doing those a little bit more than I do the competition side of tournament. Paintball can get very anxious, but when you're playing big game woods ball, you have a choice. Like, I think I'm just going to chill right here. I'm just going to wait for somebody to come by, or I'm going to do some stupid run because I can reincarnate,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So B, what advice would you give to someone who wants to become an icon in paintball?
I think you should go into it with the right reasons. And so, again, you should always try to find ways to have a good time and make it super fun. And if competitive paintball is something that brings you in, and it's something that thrills you, then absolutely make sure that that's the first and foremost reason. Hasn't brought me a whole lot of money. because a lot of what I do in the paintball world is to hang out with my friends. So it kind of is a hobby for me. And I don't lean on the paintball thing for a source of income, in other words.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see that there's a demand for me to do more on the professional side of paintball. So I feel like as long as the intention is good, and if that's your hope in becoming an icon, then make sure that that reason is righteous first, because there's longevity in that. If you're
Yeah.
coming into this thinking that you're going to make a heap of money right out the gate, well, you better be really good at social media and being a very good influencer, because you can monetize your channel that way and etc. But a lot of what I feel is your intention is super important, and you'll be blessed for it if you come out thinking the right way. So that's the best way I can kind of describe that. And then just follow through on stuff, and don't give up. Like, again, there's been so many moments where I've hated on paintball. One in particular was when my dad died. And I felt like I spent way too much time, screwing off in paintball, and I should have spent more time with my dad. And that's just guilt, But at the end of the day, I don't think my dad would have wanted me to do it any other way.
Yeah.
Because he was always the guy that encouraged me to travel, because he worked at American Airlines for 35 years. I've been traveling since I was born. And so I believe my dad wouldn't have allowed me to feel guilty for that by any means. But I quit paintball for 2.5 years, Isaac. I hated it because I felt like I didn't do right by him, And then Diane was born, right? But I stuck it. I was like, I know Diane's got a lot going on, but at the same time, I want to stay consistent in what I do in paintball. And so I didn't take a sabbatical. And then lately I've been kind of feeling that paintball burnout again, and I have moments where I'm like at this feeling of like, oh, should I put another decade into paintball, or should I focus on something else that's actually gonna, get an RV for me someday, But I think I could still achieve the RV. I think if I turn the model around a little bit, where we're traveling to do clinics and to do events, which is something I've been dreaming about for a good 5 years now. That literally was something that I was looking at before the WNXL came about. But when Tom approached us about, hey, what do you think about the women's pro division? And at first I had my reservations about it. I didn't feel that we had to, because paintball is such a sport where we're using a tool to shoot little paintballs out of it, Like, why does it matter what gender we are? Why are we featuring that, But now, after the season has gone by, I see the growth. I most particularly see it because of what I mentioned, Haley and the Blanco sisters, especially. They brought on so many new faces, not just people that played paintball years ago and now are making a comeback. These are brand new children that are in their teens that are playing paintball because of them. Even with the WNXL having their National Women's Paintball Day, that literally brought women out of the woodwork that are dating men that play paintball. And so these fellas are like, hey, babe, you should go to that clinic. It's free or whatever, because we all had a part in it. Like, some of it wasn't free, but some was. And it was very affordable to attend. And just an example with the shenanigans that brought to the table, they brought 21 brand new paintball players to their program this year.
Wow.
So I think that speaks volumes, in terms of what the WNXL committee, alongside Matt Engels and Tom and Jason Trosen and all those fellas within the NXL, has done for us, But the WNXL team ownership too, those owners like JD and Sarah from Paintball Fit, Anthony Vital and Lori Miller from Boston. You got Dave Baines and Karen. I didn't even know he had a sister, but her name is Karen Baines, and she's a rock star. She loves what she does through the women's thing. Lauren Weeks and her dad, hello, Bobby Weeks, right? His daughter is basically carrying the torch for him. And so seeing things like that, and the meetings that we have and the discussions and the productivity, like, it really, if you guys knew a lot of the behind the scenes that took place just because of those individuals, Todd and Tammy Adamson, like, they care, and we've spent heaps
Yeah.
of money to make this work, so I'm really thankful that there have been some failures along the way. Like, to me, coming in second place should be a proud moment, but we should have taken first. It's always what we all say. Gosh, if we would have won first, we would have won a lot of money too, because of the expense carried by so many of us. But it's looking pretty cool going into this next season, and I'm really excited to see what else we're capable of doing.
Awesome, B. So over these past 20-something, 24 years, what would you say that you're most thankful for that paintball's given you?
Mike. I know it's cheesy, and I
Good answer.
sometimes
No.
hate him, but like, yeah, I'm gonna get emotional. He's awesome. He's put up with so much, and he's just a good dude, and I don't give him enough credit. So thank you, Mike. And he's probably like, oh my God. But Mike's a good dude. I used to get so jealous of the fact that Holly would get more attention than Mike. But I think now people are starting to come around, and they see how Mike is so powerful. Like, he's still so good. Like, if you watch him play the ICPLs, he's so entertaining. I think that's
Yeah,
why
he
Mr.
is.
U and Miko have him along for the ride, because he makes anything he does so much fun. He still loves paintball. He's not really, like, he's not loving being back as a NXL thing. He was kind of over it, when he left the Ironman. But now he sees how my daughter loves it. And so thank you, BB, right? Because I think it would have been a lot easier for us to transition out of paintball. And again, I'm so sorry. I feel like such a sass. Like, but
No, it's good.
it's literally been our family. Like, we've lived it.
Yes,
Mike and I have
exactly.
lived it. And gosh, I was such a bitch to him too. Like, in the beginning of our relationship, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have children. But because of Mike, he was so, what's the word? Persistent. And he's so loyal to the core. That guy would not leave die. Like, he had so many offers. I think even Dynasty offered to pick him up. And I was like, what are you doing? Go play with Dynasty,
Yeah.
But he decided to stay. And so I love him more now than I've ever loved him before. And we've been through ups and downs, like close to separation.
Wow.
Diane's birth was rough. But Diane also brought us together. And so my most significant thankfulness is having met him. And it just kind of given me that confidence that I needed. Like, I would have never thunk, if somebody would have told me in high school, as I entered into Florida State University, because I have an AA degree from Florida State, and I've got my bachelor's of science degree from the University of Florida. And if somebody would have told me, like, dude, you're going to play paintball and you're going to do all this stuff, and I would have been like, what? No way, And I've won stuff. Like, I literally have so many really great medals on our walls because of Mike's coaching. Like, I don't think anybody else would have been able to do what he's done, and again, our roster in the WNXL, the majority of those girls are only 3 to 4 years old in playing paintball. Only Michaela Brooks and Jackie Lon and Lynn Trong and myself and Jessie Mayolo, but Jessie, Lynn, and I did not play in the finals. It was only Jackie. So the rest of the girls are brand spanking new. Whereas in the heroines, you've got a roster of girls that have been playing for anywhere between some probably 5, but some 10 and 20. So I'm really thankful that because of Mike's knowledge and knowing how to read, other players and what he's got, and he's good at chess, Yeah. So sorry about the little emotional segment there, but I'm thinking I'm midlife crisis things, Isaac. And so like, everything has to have meaning for me now. And any participation that we do in this sport isn't for any other reason except to try to make a change for the better. And Mike's along for the ride. So I'm excited. Like, next year is going to be pretty freaking awesome. And our goal is to win first at every single WNXL event and we're going to win the overall series championship. So you heard it here first.
Yes.
And yeah, and we're going to document it all. So at the end of the year, we have a really cool story to share.
Awesome.
But yeah, right, that's it. Thank you, Isaac.
Bea, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
I don't think I've ever
Amazing.
cried in a podcast before, so you're welcome.
Well, is there anything that you want to part with for the paintball community?
I just want to say thanks to Jacko. Thank you, Jacko at Planet Eclipse. He's stuck by us, God, since the day Planet Eclipse opened their doors. The only time that we left was when we tried Bob Long for about a season. And then we ended up going back to Planet Eclipse. But thank you, Bob, for the time that we did have with you. And then, of course, Brian. Gosh, I remember going skiing with Brian back when I worked at JT and he was at Dye. And we would just kind of hang out. And then he made Push. I'm so thankful that he sent me blueprints of the goggle prior to him even launching the business. And so we're still with Push. And again, that whole loyalty thing that Mike has taught us is something that we don't like to move around a whole lot. And then even with Tank, John Tankersley from Tank's Paintball, he was a huge part of why Jelly Ball took off the way that it did. And also why, you see gel blasters and gel strikers and you know who you owners are, and so they saw it at Paintball Extravaganza. And I think that really inspired them. So big shout out to Tank for everything you've done. You're like my life coach. This year we had Anthrax helping us out with our apparel, and we look good because of their quality stuff, and the graphic design is top notch. So shout out to Amber Wong for all her help. And then Allie Remembered is going to be somebody that we continue with up until next year. They're actually going to be taking over some of the reins for us to get word out there about their objective. We're going to work in collaboration to just raise awareness about domestic violence. We actually have people in Destiny's umbrella that have domestic violence issues, and we've actually called on Andy and those guys to help us to figure out a solution. And so because of that relationship we have, we're going to do a lot more next year with him too. Virtue, Chris, thank you so much too. He wanted us to be head to toe basically with Virtue.
Well, I bet.
But again, I can't leave Brian. Like I adore the guy, and the Push goggle honestly is the best on the market. But yeah, I hope I didn't forget anybody, but those are some of the big ones. And so just really thankful that you too, Isaac, because you helped out us a lot this past year, answering a lot of my texts. So thank you very much.
Of course, my pleasure.